My name's Nathan Leber. I teach Latin for UWA Extension. I'm a trained Latin, Greek and ancient history expert, as well as a one-time musician. I was a musician for many years, 10 years, trained at the West Australian Academy of Performing Arts in jazz and contemporary studies. And one day, after such a mundane thing as picking up a cup of tea, found that my tendon had snapped in my right arm and thus ended my music career. So having to find something else to do in life, I decided to go back to study. Went back to the University of West Australia to study ancient history, Latin and Greek, and through that discovered the joy of the Latin language and fell in love with it, to tell you the truth. Yeah. The Latin language is such a fascinating language in that above all other things, really, it has this conservation of language. If Latin feels that you can understand something, it won't put it in there, and it will leave you to interpret. So one of the joys, I think, of translating is it's an art form, and it's not just a matter of this word equals this, but a matter of, I won't say use the word manipulate, that's a little bit strong, but it allows you to interpret what the language is actually saying. I'm one of those firm believers that teachers are born, they're not made, and no matter what I've always done, I've felt more joy in actually giving that message across to people and teaching them that there is always a way around teaching. Some people don't get it straight away, but that doesn't mean they'll never get it, you know. I think one of the joys of teaching is finding that way to help your students learn. Everyone always has this opinion that Latin has this tradition of being a very difficult language, of being the language of that the best at school learned, you know, when it was taught at schools, which it isn't anymore. One of the things I love is demystifying the language and saying, look, Latin is not a difficult language. Latin just has rules. And if you follow those rules, you're going to be fine. And trying to bring out that joy of, you know, you have it's not just simply this word means that. You have this ability now to interpret and to make things how you want them. I always refer to it as like a puzzle. You know, you get given these words that you're completely unfamiliar with, and your job is to puzzle it out, to work out not only what these words mean, but how they fit within the general context of things. I've translated papal letters, for instance, from Archbishop of Perth, early Archbishop of Perth, where he talks about when they eat meat during Lent. So the whole letter is about, okay, on Wednesdays and Thursdays we don't do this, and on Tuesdays we'll eat eggs, but we won't eat that. And you know, something that's so mundane as that, to most people, you know, has this certain sense of awe to it when you're reading it in Latin and trying to work out what these people were trying to express. Yeah. I guess the relevance of Latin to us today is quite a crucial point in trying to work out whether one should follow this path or not, I guess. And certainly there are certain fields, for instance, that are immediately apparent, whether it be the law, whether it be medicine, whether it be zoology, botany, anything like that. You know, a certain understanding of Latin, of course, is going to help you there. The worst thing to ever do is to go to the zoo with someone who knows Latin, because they'll be explaining why the African elephant is Loxodontal africanus, yeah, the slanted tooth African creature, and those certain amounts of joy in being able to express those kind of things and actually understand why something's called what it is. There's certainly a relevance there. The other thing is, of course, because so much of English is based in Latin, Latin gives you an amazing skill in working out what words mean. Your vocabulary improves immensely. So even for the average student of English, a certain study in Latin, of course, is going to be very useful to you. There's lots of fields that, you know, Latin still has some relevance to us today, despite us even knowing it. You know, it sneaks up on us sometimes. Anyone who's watched an American marine movie and you hear Semper Fi, for instance. I mean, it's just semper fidelis, always faithful is what it means. Stat in a medical drama comes from the Latin statim, which means at once. So all these things you're hearing all the time anyway. And sometimes it's amazing just to learn that was actually derived from Latin. The other thing that Latin, this is a little bit of a side issue, of course, but the other thing that Latin will allow you is one-upmanship. So if you ever want to feel that you're better than someone, if you know what the Latin means of things, you can turn around and say it. For instance, the word tandem, the bike. The word tandem in Latin means at length. So it was this little joke that the tandem bike was a bike at length, meaning it was a long bike, although in Latin it's never used to mean long, it means like at length, as in finally. Data, for instance, literally means things given. Propaganda means things that must be spread. There are all these words that we use every single day and we don't even think about it, and we're actually using the Latin word. Agent, for instance, comes from the Latin word argo, which means to do, to conduct. So an agent is something that does something, that conducts it, that allows something to be done. So it's just a fascinating thing that people, without even thinking about it, use Latin every single day of their life. I try to make it a bit lighthearted. As I said, Latin has this image of being this mundane, really difficult, hard language, and it's not. It's something you can have fun with, and I think all language is like that. Any education is like that. You should have fun when you learn, and that's the whole secret behind it all.